of YouTube. This is Alrighty Then, and I'm going to be conducting a video on how to replace or repair your calipers on a 2008 Ford F350. So here's the story. I'm driving down the road, and all of a sudden I come to a complete stop, kind of abrupt. But when it comes time for me to take off, the car is very sluggish, or it just seems like it's not as smooth as it should be. So as I'm driving, I release the steering wheel, and all of a sudden the car starts to pull to one side. So usually that could be two things: either you have a flat tire, or something is, kind of binding on that one rim or tire or axle. So I got home, and the rim was really hot, so which led me to believe that the brakes were being applied. It was hanging up. So I drive the car for a couple days, weeks and months, and nothing happens. But last night I'm driving the car, and all of a sudden I feel the same thing. So I had parked, I got out, and I'm going home again, and all of a sudden the same thing happens. I feel it just doesn't feel right, and so when I release the steering wheel, the car pulls to the side. So I kind of drive about 1.5 miles, and I pull over where it was safe. I got outside, and the disc was red hot. I'm talking, that thing was red hot. So I've seen some footage, and sometimes they say that the pins that hold the caliper in place seize up, and that's what causes it to hang, or to seize. And I was hoping that would be the case in my truck, but no, it's not. Obviously, Murphy's Law. So actually, the calipers, the actual pistons in my calipers had melted due to this phenomenon happening several times. And after speaking with a master Ford mechanic, they told me that it's normal. It happens. And I'm like, well, is there anything you can do to avoid it? And they're like, nope. So bottom line is, every time you go change your tire, every time you go rotate your tires or do something, check out the caliper. Just give it a quick visual inspection. Make sure that the pins aren't binding. And so now I'm going to show you how to remove the caliper, remove your brake pads, and put a new caliper in. I'm only going to do one side because the other side is identical. This is what the calipers look like. If you see the pistons, they are all eaten up. They're supposed to be nice and smooth. This is what a brand new one looks like. See how nice and shiny it is? So because of the intense heat, the calipers pretty much, or the pistons rather, just melted right away. And so I'm gonna, I have the new one here just to show you how to take it off. Luckily for this application, there's not that many tools that are necessary. I would use a medium pry bar, because it's a real pain in the butt to try to pull this off, especially when it had all of this corrosion on it. So make sure that you use a medium pry bar. You'll need a 16mm wrench to remove the the caliper itself. So you could just take that 16mm, loosen the top nut, there's a bottom nut. Go ahead and loosen that up. Once you loosen that, just go ahead and pop it in your tray. Keep track of your screws. And if this was stuck, you could just kind of pry it off like this, a little bit on the top, a little bit on the bottom, a little bit on the bottom, a little bit on the top. Make sure that as you're doing that, you don't damage the pads. Now in this case, the pads have been so overheated that they're pretty much useless at this point. So I went ahead and I bought brand new pads. So I'm going to do the whole thing. You might as well do it right. So this is what the old pad looks like. This is what the new pad looks like. And for some reason, the new one tends to have a lot more surface area, so it's going to give me a lot more stopping power. At least that's what I'm hoping. So that's the new pad. Here's the old pad. A lot more surface area on the new one. I thought it was kind of weird, but we'll see what happens. Alrighty. Now, these are the pins. If you notice, when I push it in and out, it kind of bounces very freely, and so does the bottom one. This is free-flowing. It doesn't feel coarse. It doesn't feel sandy or gritty, so which leads me to believe that it's perfectly fine. However, I am going to grease them up anyway, just to make sure that they are fine. The new caliper comes with its own, so I am going to grease these up just to make sure that they're okay. And they have a lot of grease on them. They seem pretty clean. There's no rust, so that's a good good indicator that that's fine. And on the bottom one, let's see. Take a look at the bottom one. Bottom one, same thing. And remember, this is a 2008 F350. The older ones, the older models, had a little rubber grommet right about here that was a pain in the butt, but this one doesn't have it, thank God. This is the old rubber ring, the old rubber grommet that kind of keeps all the grease together on this pin here. The old one looks great. I'm going to spray some WD-40 on it to get some of the junk off of it. It did came with new ones, but I'm not going to use the new ones just in case I have to do this again. If I mess it up, I can always use the new one. So just a little bit of WD-40 on this to go ahead and give it a good cleaning. I did take the napkin and run it through here just to make sure to remove any of the old grease. You can see that there is some. And I'm going to put, it's a brake grease, it's a synthetic brake grease. It's a high temp grease, so it's supposed to stand the test of time when it comes to the high temperatures that your disc get to. So this way the WD-40 softens up the rubber, makes it nice and supple again, brings back some life to it. And I'm just going to put the pin right back where it was. So I'm going to crack this little packet open. Moved up. Now I can go ahead and put it right back in. Actually, if you take some of it and you stick it in the hole first, the tolerance here is pretty tight. So otherwise all the grease is going to come out. So at least this way you put some in there. There it goes. Lock the little thing in, and there you go. Perfect. Nice and good. And it makes a nice little vacuum in there, so you know you got it in. So this is the old one with the grease on it, and you can see it's a little dirty, so I'm just going to wipe it off a little bit. They seem to be the same. There doesn't seem to be a top or a bottom one like in other cars, so this one's, you could be safe that you'll be alright on the 2008. And this is the single rear wheel. The calipers are a little bit different, but same way. Put some in the hole as well. I guess you could use lithium grease, but I'm using this brake grease because I know it's going to last a long time because of the extreme heat, and especially on these heavy-duty trucks. So that goes right in there and locked in. So here we go. Got a nice tight seal in there. Okay, head and get yourself a pair of large channel lock pliers. These babies are really good. You can open the mouths up real big, and a lot of times you can use that to push the piston down. You can always put the pad in front of it and use that to help you out, and that usually takes care of it. You don't, most of the time you don't need any fancy tools or anything like that to do that. So usually this nice channel lock pliers will do the job. I can't believe that they want this back as a core. But what I did was I opened this little valve on the new one, opened the valve and stuck my little hose on it with my bleeder bottle, okay? And then I poured fluid into here, and as I was pouring it in, I was pumping the bottle so that it would kind of help, you know, circulate the get the air bubbles out. And all I did was I loosened the bolt on the old one, loosened it, and right when it was about to take out, I grabbed the new one, loosened it, put it in here, closed it with very little loss of fluid. And always remember to put a bucket underneath so that you can catch it, the excess fluid. It's very bad for the environment. And it's a good idea to have a set of bungee cords to hold the caliper while you're doing your brake stuff. So once the brakes are in place, and also turn the wheel away from you so that you have full access to the brake system. Otherwise, you know, you're working in a tight space. Like this, you have all the access, you're very comfortable, no problem. So we're going to remove the caliper here, and I'm going to tighten this bolt a little bit more once I get in here. Oh, but before, it should slide right in just like this. Have your screws ready. I'm using the old ones because they fit real nice onto the old pins. And that goes in just like that. So it's a pretty simple process. not a lot to do. Um, I hate it when mechanics are like, "Oh, this is so hard, you can't do it." But with a little bit of knowledge, a couple tools, this is not something that's impossible to do.